What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time that was sent in to me about a time a subscriber apparently got invited to a party, didn't know exactly where he was supposed to be going, and ended up showing up to the wrong person's property. And this person was one of those "get off my property" types. So, it was a pretty awkward interaction. I figured it would make a good story time. So without further ado, let's go. All right. So the person who sent this to me was in their third year of college, and at that point you've gotten a lot of your crappy credits out of the way. You've done a lot of the classes nobody wants to do, and they had ended up doing those classes at community college, which meant it was their third year of college, but like their first year actually being on the college campus that had a bunch of people and a bunch of stuff going on. So they weren't super familiar with the area, but they definitely wanted to catch up and have that college experience. So one day after class, he was talking to a few of his classmates, and they say that one of them grew up in the area and their parents are going to be out of town, so they're going to throw a party at their parents' ranch house. Which, listen, I've never been to a party on a ranch. Over here in Las Vegas, people don't necessarily be owning 40 acres like it's normal. But I'm assuming something about getting really messed up with a bunch of your friends in the middle of nowhere where no one can really see or hear what's going on could be a pretty good time. You end up blowing up a few barrels, everybody has a great time, You wake up in the horse barn, whatever it may be. He just figured, why not? I'll go to this party, have myself a good time, it'll be lit. So he ends up getting the address from the person whose house it is, right? And he knows it's going to be in the middle of nowhere because it does have a house number, but it's like House 80, Highway 55. It's not like it's got some pretty street name. It's not like it's in some subdivision. You just kind of got to find it. And this guy is from a pretty big city, so he has literally no experience finding these places. And of course, he has to work that night. So he finishes work, he gets out, and it's dark, and he starts driving around trying to find this address that he has written down. And like I said, he's not from a place where this has ever been something he has to do before, so he's just rolling around these country roads like it's dark, clearly lost, has no idea where he's going, but then he finds a mailbox that has a similar number, so he just figures that he'll go down the driveway and see if this is the house. And see, it might be pretty normal, like in a city, like here if you're lost to just kind of roll around the neighborhood and try to figure out where you are, that's pretty normal. That being said, people who live out in the country aren't used to strangers rolling down their driveways slowly in the middle of the night, especially if they're not planning on having anyone there. I don't live out in the country. That being said, if I ever do move out to the middle of nowhere, I'm probably doing it so that way people aren't coming onto my driveway and bothering me all the time, Probably out here with like a security system, even for the UPS guy. Like that level of, just don't come onto my property, and I don't blame him. Because you got to imagine, if you're in the middle of nowhere, 90% of the time people that are coming onto your property know you or know what's on the property. The odds that many people are just wandering around lost, I'm guessing, is smaller when you live in the middle of nowhere. But he doesn't really think anything of it. He's just kind of going down this driveway. And as he's going down the driveway, he sees the light of a house on probably like a mile up the driveway. And so he's cruising and he's going really slow and he sees some shadows in the front of the house, like through the window. So he decides, whatever, he'll just go up and knock on the door and see if they can give him direction. And once again, nothing about this is innately horrible, right? Whatever, you get lost, you need help, it is what it is. That being said, pulling up, knocking on the door of a stranger's house in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, they might be a little paranoid about the entire interaction, Anyways, when he gets out of the car and starts walking up to the door to knock and see if they can give him directions, the lights turn off and he stops seeing shadows move around. And obviously, you're not gonna assume that the people that were just home see your car pull up and start pretending to not be home. So his first thought is, oh, this is my friend's house and they're messing with me by pretending to not be here. They're gonna hide, I'm gonna get back in the car and they're gonna be like, where are you? So he starts to think that they're messing with him. So he decides to mess with them back. The only issue is, this is not his friend's house, right? So he starts knocking on the door. And when I say knocking, he's like pounding on the door, right? He thinks his friends are right on the other side trying to make him look stupid. He just wants to get in out of the cold air. So he's like, gong, 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 let me in, let me in. And sure enough, if your friends are on the other side of the door, I'm sure this would be really funny. They're pretending to not be there, you're freaking out. The only problem is the people on the other side of the door have no clue who this dude is. All they saw was some car very slowly creeping up their driveway, and then some guy getting out and coming to bang on the door. And so there's like a Ring doorbell there, and he hears a voice come through it, and it doesn't sound like any of his friends, and it's a man's voice, and he goes, I don't know who you are or what you're doing on my property, but you need to get out of here, otherwise I'm gonna call the cops. And this guy, for whatever reason, doesn't click that like, oh, okay, this isn't my friend's house. He once again thinks that it's somebody in the party messing with him and being like, get out of here. So he looks at the Ring doorbell and goes, I'm not afraid of that, dude. Come on, just let me in. I'm here for the party. And the Ring doorbell comes back and they go, listen, there's no party here. You have the wrong house. Seriously, like, get off my property. And for some reason, dude, it's still not clicking in this dude's head that this is not the right house. He's like, wow, they're really committed to this entire joke. And so he goes one more time. He's like, look, I'm not leaving until somebody comes out. And obviously the person on the other side is now convinced that there's just some raving lunatic standing on the porch demanding entry to their house. So they're freaking out. And there's just silence from the Ring doorbell after that. And after about 2 minutes of just pure silence after that, he goes, okay, I'm just gonna go back to the car. This is ridiculous. I'm gonna go home. So he bangs on the door one more time and he goes, if you don't let me into the party, then I'm leaving. And there's no response. So he turns around and starts walking back to his car. And he probably gets 30 feet away from the door when he hears it open. And he turns around and goes, oh, so you're finally gonna let me in. But instead of seeing one of his friends, he just sees this old man brandishing what appears to be, a Valorant pew-pew. I'm not going to say it, but definitely something that you don't want to see aimed at you, especially in the middle of the night when you're realizing that you're on someone else's property. And he goes, oh, you are not my friend. And he goes, I've told you multiple times that there's no party here. You need to get off my property now. And this guy has really never had an interaction like this. I don't feel like most people have, but he's kind of like frozen with fear. Obviously, in that situation, you're going to be basically pooping your pants. I can't blame him, dude. If I was wearing tighty whities, they'd be tighty brownies in this situation. But he's kind of realizing that this is just a scared old man that thinks that he was just trying to break into his house. And so obviously, he's like, you need to go now. And so finally, the old man says again, he's like, I said, get out of here. And at that point, like, the fear kind of leaves his body and he's like, yeah, I'll get out of here. And he like backs up very slowly, hands up, gets in the car and peels down the driveway as fast as humanly possible. And before he even gets to the end of the driveway, he calls his friend and he's like, hey, I went to the wrong house. Some old man just came out and like told me to get off his property. And his friend whose house it is goes, oh, that's my neighbor. You're really close. And he goes, does your neighbor do that often? And he goes, well, dude, I don't know, like, I've never heard of him doing that, but that being said, it's like 10 p.m. and you're banging on the wrong door demanding entry to a party that's not going on, probably just scaring the crap out of this old man who definitely thinks someone's trying to break into his house right now. So, I don't know, my neighbor is a little bit crazy, but yeah, you're kind of in a place where like that might happen if you pull up to someone's house at 10 p.m. and start banging on the door. And listen, I know a lot of people are going to be like, that old man is crazy, but think about it. You are in the middle of nowhere. You have a mile driveway. You watch some car very slowly approach, some person you don't know get out and start banging on the door and be like, let me in, I'm here for the party. You're a 75-year-old man, bro. You haven't had anyone visit in a very long time. Yeah, you're probably freaking out. Not to mention, every time you tell him to leave and there's no party, he just doubles down and keeps banging on the door like, okay, very funny, let me in. I would probably be scared too. I'm not saying it's this guy's fault at all. Clearly, he just had the wrong address. He didn't know that he's just scaring this old man. This entire situation is just horrible, right? Because everybody's freaking out, everybody's scared, and everybody kind of has a reason to be scared, right? Anyways, he doesn't end up going home. He does end up going to his friend's party, and he goes to his friend's party, and he has such a good time at his friend's party that he ends up falling asleep there, right? Didn't end up being able to make the drive home, so he just stays. And the next morning, they wake up and they're kind of talking, and they're like, look, let's go talk to my neighbor and explain what happened, just so that way he doesn't think that someone was trying to, like, break into his house, you know? It's probably better to just explain it. And the person who had knocked on the door goes over with the owner of the house, and they kind of knock on the door, and sure enough, this time the old man answers with nothing in his hand. And he goes, hey, and then he looks at the other guy who had been knocking on his door. He says hey to the person who's his neighbor, and he goes, oh, you're the dude who was here last night and wouldn't get off my property. And immediately the person who sent this to me turns red with embarrassment, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm really sorry. I thought this was the right house. When I pulled up and the lights were on, I just assumed that this was the right house, and when they turned them off, I thought they were messing with me, which is why I kept banging on the door. Like, I didn't even think about it being the wrong house, and I'm really sorry. And the old man is like surprisingly understanding. He's like, no, it's okay, you know. I saw the car pulling up and I turned off my lights because there's been an uptick in like burglaries around here and I just didn't want to have to deal with it. And honestly, I was going to ignore you until you left, but you just kept banging on the door demanding to come in. So eventually I was like, I just got to get this guy out of here. And the person who sent this to me is just feeling like an absolute moron because they're realizing throughout this entire interaction, they basically were just like scaring this dude. They didn't realize, bro. They had no clue burglaries are on the rise. They had no clue it's the wrong house. But that being said, yeah, this old man is just trying to ignore you and you're like the most ferocious Girl Scout troop that won't take no to buying cookies for an answer. You're just banging on the door. You're like, I'm not leaving till you buy 900 Thin Mints. Anyways, the old man says, like, listen, it's good, but just so you know, if somebody says that it's the wrong house, it's probably better to go back and double check the address rather than just keep banging on the door. Especially because, you know, like I said, people have walked up to my house, knocked on the door, and been at the wrong address. Like, it happens. If you live in a neighborhood, it's doable. But yeah, 11 at night in the middle of nowhere where your nearest neighbor's half a mile away, you can't blame them for maybe not believing the, you know, oh, I'm looking for a friend's house. Especially if they never have people knocking on the door, period. They're gonna be a little bit more paranoid than, like, someone who's just living near a ton of people. Regardless, the person who sent this to me did, like, profusely apologize for scaring him, and the old man was super cool about it, and after that, he was always double checking the addresses and also just got more familiar with the area. But yeah, that's the story of a time a subscriber of mine almost got blooped by simply banging on the wrong door for like an insanely long period of time. You know, always double check the address before you start harassing everyone in the house, just a general rule of thumb. But on that note, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. I know this was a shorter one, I just thought it was entertaining, so I figured why not. If you did enjoy it, be sure to press the like button, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought, and of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you really like content like this, I do post it on Spotify with the audio version if you want to just listen to it without gameplay, offline, whatever floats your boat, link down below. But yeah, on that note, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.